Hello, hello. Welcome to Self Love Sunday chat. Let me check if everything is just working out here and whether we are actually live. That's brilliant. And as soon as you are here, please just give me a thumbs up. I say hi so that I know that you can hear me and see me and everything is as it is supposed to be. So we have a very interesting topic today. Okay, I can see some of you are here already, so it seems that it's all working probably. Yeah, just let me know. Just say hi in the comments or give me thumbs up so that I know that you are here. Hi, Serena. Good to see you. Okay, so it means that that all is well. Okay, brilliant. So welcome again on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's kind of really nice and sunny here in Dublin, at least. So I hope we are going to have like a beautiful summer day ahead. We have a big topic today about healthy and unhealthy love, and in spite of this title that I gave to this Self Sunday chat, of course there is no healthy and unhealthy love. Yes, love is love, and there is only one love, and it has nothing to do with health. But there are healthy and unhealthy relationships, and there are also a lot of things that we take as love. A lot of myths about what love is and what isn't, like for example over functioning, over giving, and bringing yourself to the point of depletion or exhaustion is not love, as well as agreeing to everything, trying to please everyone, right, trying to do whatever you can to keep everybody happy and comfortable is not love. So it's just worth remembering, yes, what we use the word love for. And as I said, of course, there are like healthy and unhealthy relationships, and that's something that I really meant by using this title. So I would really love to start today with two brutally honest truths. The first one is that what I believe, at least, is that some relationships are really so toxic and so unhealthy for us that it's much better for them to end. So just let me know in the comments whether you agree with this or not. But I believe from my own experience and from working, for such a long time with my clients, I can see that, some people are just not willing, are not even capable of change. And that's their choice, yes, and they have a right to make this choice. So pushing and trying to force them to change is not only draining for ourselves, but it's also futile. And sometimes it's much better to just love them from a distance. So just let me know whether this sounds to you like yes or no. So that's one situation. And another situation is that sometimes we just drift apart. We just go two different paths, and it's not only in love relationships. It happens quite often with our friends, that we kind of start to live in so different ways, and our values change so much that we drift apart, and there is nothing holding us together anymore. And then sometimes it's better, if it causes a lot of stress, of course, it's also better to just let it go. So that's one thing. Not every relationship is worth fighting for. And then the other brutally honest truth. Uh, I quite often hear from my clients, who come to me with problems in their relationships, that they have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, a lot of things coming up, which are obviously not their fault. So, and just let me know again if you've been there. Sometimes I think we've all happened to go there from time to time, that we can go on for hours, how the other person is hurting us, how they are toxic or negative, what wrong things they keep doing, and it just goes on and on. I'll tell you what he did the other day. And and I emphasize with that, of course, yes, with the frustration, with the pain that you experience in these situations. But playing the blame game never takes us anywhere, and it never brings us any closer to what we truly need or to what we truly want. In all these relationships that we felt really misunderstood or hurt or even deeply wounded, we tend to ignore, to not see our part in creating this unhappiness. And this might be a very small part. It's not equal. Yes, your partner might be responsible for 90% of toxic things, unhealthy things that are happening in a relationship, but there is still 10 that is your own. And it's very empowering to take responsibility for your part in what's going on, because sometimes we tend to give ourselves like a free pass and focus totally and even magnify, yes, the other person's mistakes and flaws and missteps. And that takes us nowhere. We start to feel like a victim. There's more and more anger that we feel, and the relationship changes into a war that no one can win. And the worst thing that results from that is that your resentment grows. And resentment, this beware of resentment in relationships. Resentment is a relationship killer. It's one of the things that that makes us struggle in our relationships if we are not able to clear, to let go, to process, to work through our own resentment. It can really kill a relationship. So it's very important, yes, that we, even if our part is really tiny, that we take responsibility for it and we do something about it. Yes, because healthy relationships always start with you. And I also just reminding you about the Detox Your Relationship workshop. Yes, that we are going to have on the 19th of July, and that will be a 2-hour workshop. So we'll have a lot of time so that I can share with you my five-step rescue plan, what you can do when you notice that there is a lot of toxicity or negativity in your relationship, or stress in your relationship, and this is bringing you down. So I put all of this together, yes, and we will use my Ignite method to give you a step-by-step plan how you can bring much more peace and fulfillment and happiness into your relationship. So there is a link above this video. If you haven't signed up yet, please do. Okay, so let's start with like 3 scenarios that so often keep us stuck uh, in relationships that are not optimal, and not only stuck, but also in a sense that not taking steps to do something about it. And then I will tell you like the five red flags that I think it's really important to watch out for, because they, once you notice them, you know that something needs to be done. And awareness is always the first step. Once you know, okay, something's not right here, then you can start taking steps to change that. We do things. Okay, should I let it go that my mom doesn't bother? Seems to take, but neither give to me or my sisters. We do things for her more than should. Yeah, and we'll come back to that. And there is never ever any should, right? Uh, and what's more, there is never ever the right course of action. It's also it's always very like individual, yes, and it's being deeply in touch with yourself so that you know what feels right to you. And it might be also a different thing for you and a different thing for your sisters. The only thing that matters like long term is us being in alignment with ourselves, because then we also create relationships, yes, that are in alignment, and um, we also create relationships in which other people can feel in alignment. So it always starts with just listening to yourself. All right, so 3 scenarios that so often keep us stuck. And just check in with yourself whether you can recognize this either now from what's happening now in your life, or maybe you've been in situations like this in the past. So the first one is when we are so deep into this negativity or toxicity that we can't even see it. So in a sense that we are so used to it that it becomes our normal. Unfortunately, we get used to things very, very quickly, even to things that are painful, uncomfortable, that are hurting us. And after a while, they just become familiar. And whatever is familiar for your nervous system is good, yes, is safe. This becomes your comfort zone. And you kind of forget about the fact that the situation itself is not good for you. Sometimes it's very, very unhealthy for you, and sometimes it's very obvious and intense, like in all these abusive relationships that can last for years, uh, because everybody is used to the dynamic that is getting on, that is happening, and everybody becomes codependent and kind of addicted to the situation as it is. But sometimes it's much more subtle, yes. So you can, for example, get used to your partner's like anger outbursts when he's really nasty to you, or they are really nasty to you, and calling you names or really belittling you. And this becomes a normal part of the relationship. Or you can get used to your like coworker or your boss constantly crossing your boundaries and start to regard this as something normal. Or like with your parent or with your sibling, quite often, if they are constantly negative and critical, we at some point just choose to put up with that and accept it as something that is normal. Now, this is not healthy. Yes, this is not good for you, and living in these situations when there is, for example, like constant fighting, fighting so much that you cannot work things out, it seems like never, or living, surrounded by this contempt, criticism, hostility, or even violence, not being able to go to your partner or friend for support when you really need it. All these are unhealthy situations. And it's very important for us to name it, to see it, to recognize it, and to name it. Because once we name it, we can start taking steps to change it. It's never in any relationship and in any situation, no matter how difficult, you are never helpless. There are always things that you can do to change it. So that's number one. The second scenario is should I stay or should I go? One day I want out, the next day I'm deciding to stay. And that is also something that happens quite common. And it's a very tricky situation, yes? And again, it doesn't only happen in love relationships. Quite often, it happens in friendships or even with our family members. Uh, some part of us wants to leave. Some part of us, says, I'm done with that. I can't do this anymore. But some other part of us is not so eager to leave this relationship, yes? So maybe we see potential in this relationship. Maybe we still have hopes that something can change. Maybe, we have good memories from the past and it's very difficult to let that go. Maybe we've invested so much in this relationship that again, it's not easy to just leave it and move somewhere else and move forward. And sometimes we just really scared what life would be without this relationship. Yes. Uh, and we scared that if we leave it, we'll regret it. So there might be a lot of fear that keeps us, in the relationship as well. But if you are constantly in between, yes, there's not much that you can do because you kind of keep switching from one position to the other. You cannot commit fully to the relationship, and committing fully to the relationship is the first step to changing something about it. But instead of committing, you kind of have one leg in it and one leg out of it. And that sometimes, that sometimes lasts for years. And it can be a very, very draining situation. And the last one. And the last scenario is when you are like on a mission to fix the relationship, but truly you are on a mission to fix the other person. And we get stuck here so often. So it's, all the situations when we believe that if only the other person would change, life would be just beautiful. And the classic example is if only he stopped drinking, all would be just perfect. All would be beautiful. Well, it never is. Yes, even if he stops drinking, all the problems don't disappear miraculously. And sometimes they even grow much bigger. So this is classic and this is big, but we do this with much smaller things as well. Yes, we insist like if only the other person understood me, if only the other person saw things my way, if only they stopped doing something like overworking, for example, or if only they started doing something, everything would be like sorted. Now that's a trap, yes, always. And because then we go to huge lengths to make the other person change. to force them to change. Yes, to sometimes, to plead and beg, sometimes to manipulate. But really, our whole focus is on the other person. And like the reality is, we have no control here. The other person is a free human being, and they can decide whether they want to change or not. So again, that's really draining. And the more we push, the more they push back. And again, it's fighting and stress and a lot of effort, which is quite often very futile in the end. Um, so, and I think I've been like in all three scenarios myself, and I know them quite intimately. So just let me know in the comments, whether you recognize them as well. And sometimes we have like a favorite one, our go-to scenario that we enter with, like in most cases, or with most people in our life. So I'm really curious, what is it for you? Do you tend to like get used to unhealthy stuff and stop seeing it? Do you, have this one way, one leg in, one leg out? Should I stay or should I go? Or do you sometimes go on a mission to fix the other person? That's always good to know. Awareness, especially awareness of our own patterns and responses, helps so much to change things. So no matter which scenario you're stuck in, it always, yes, starts with you. So the first thing to do always is to bring your awareness, bring your focus back to yourself. Serena says, I can relate to all of these. Yeah, me too. Over the years, I've been in all of them, really. So it always starts with you focusing back on yourself. And you always need to start with building yourself up, with building your power, your confidence, yes, your strength, your emotional resilience. This is all on you. Then it also starts with understanding, as we said earlier, what's your part in creating the negativity or toxicity or unhappiness or stress in a relationship is, because there's always your part. And it always starts with you understanding yourself better. So what you're really about, what are your patterns, what is your baggage that you bring from the past into the relationship, and also what are your needs, what you truly need, what you truly want, what you really expect from a relationship. You need to really know what it is for you. Christine says, I definitely recognize the first one. Ever since I was a child, I have been criticized and I just accept it. Yeah. So the moment you realize this, yes, you kind of start to reclaim your power to do something about it, because it's not something that you have to accept. Karina says, I can relate as well with the alcohol. Yes, alcohol is a big thing always. Yes, and it can become like a recurrent theme in our life. But there's also a lot we can do about it. Mary says, I have been through it all too, with different relationships. Yes, separating myself away from others. Yeah, process that goes on over a long time. See your own behaviors is the hardest of all. Yes, yeah, it's always a process. Yes, our growth and our change is a lifelong process. But you can enjoy it. Yes, it can be a good, inspiring, and empowering process. It doesn't have to be hard. And seeing your own behaviors is hardest when you try to do this on your own, yes? Because, it's very difficult. It's like, when you take your hand, yes, and you put it on your face, you can see very little about your hand right now, yes? It's the same with your behaviors. They are just right here in your face. So you can't really see them. But if you have some distance, yes, if you can look at your hand from a distance, then it all becomes much clearer. That's how therapy works, yes? Because we therapists, like psychotherapists or counselors, we are trained coaches. We are trained to see the other person's like behaviors or patterns with clarity. But that's also possible because we are not inside the situation. So that's why support, yes, and having somebody to be a mirror for you helps a lot. Brilliant. Okay, so once you do all these things for yourself, what you really gain, you gain a lot. But the things that really matter here for the relationships are clarity and confidence, and they change everything. Clarity about what you want, what really matters to you, what you want to do next, and confidence to do it. Yes, and this is a very, very powerful path, because what happens then is, first of all, you raise the bar, so other people quite often can follow you. And I can see it very often with my one-on-one clients. When they grow, when they make the change, yes, their loved ones quite, like, they can't behave the same way any longer, because my clients stop playing their games, so they have to change their behavior as well. So very often they grow as well, they follow them into a new, better place. What happens also quite often is that when we recognize our part and we change our part and let go of it, the relationship like moves to a different level, yes, because our part was so playing such a huge role in the dynamic. And what also happens sometimes is that when we recognize our patterns, our reactions, our habits, we start to see things from a very different perspective. We start to see things differently, and things that used to drive us crazy do not bother us anymore. And that is always a huge change. Just to give you an example, I've been working with a client, and she is in a new relationship. Yes, so they are both in their 40s, so it's not their first relationship, but their relationship is quite new, and they've just moved in together. And of course, like, this is a huge change, and there are issues coming to the surface. So what turned out a while ago was that my client's partner, he loves to whistle. So he really loves to whistle. He whistles in his shower. He whistles while cooking. He whistles while doing shopping, and it bothers her a lot. Like, it really drives her mad. So she says to him, please stop doing that. And he stops, but in a few minutes, like, he forgets himself and starts to whistle again. So then she starts to, just ignore his whistling, yes, and just put up with this and not say anything. But then the frustration grows, yes, because she's really like on edge with this whistling. So, and she didn't say anything about it for a long time, because it seemed like so trivial. They are really in love. They want to be together. And this seems like a tiny detail, but quite often these tiny details, like, they build up. That this is what really our life consists of. And Just imagine where this story could go if they haven't found a solution for the next few years. So anyway, so I asked her why does it bother her so much? What's so wrong about whistling? And of course, when you start digging deeper, you go back to the real roots. So she went back to her childhood, and she went back to her mom, and her mom was always, real angry and shouting at her brother for whistling, because she thought that whistling is a very improper behavior. And when we dug even deeper, we came to like only drunkards whistle. And there was also like an uncle in the family who had a real problem with alcohol, and he would whistle all the time. And the message that was behind this whistling, or maybe just to put it in other words, his whistling was interpreted by the whole family as I don't care. I don't give a shit about anything or anybody. And that was all kind of imprinted, ingrained in her nervous system. So when she heard her partner whistling, yes, although she knew that like the message is totally different, this old message from the past was triggered all of the time. So when she saw it, like everything changed, because like first of all she knew why he was whistling, and she also asked him, and he told her that he's so happy that he can't stop himself. So when she saw that the message was very different, yes, the issue just disappeared. Like so many of problems that we consider relationship problems are not relationship problems at all. They are our problems. They are our like partner, a friend, or a colleague at work problem. We just bring them into the relationship and we play them out in a relationship, but they are not relationship problems, and we have a lot of power to resolve them ourselves. So let me tell you 5 things that I think are most important to pay attention to, because they very clearly show you that there is some work to be done in a relationship. So the first of them is the intensity. All these relationships, where there is like a lot of adrenaline, a lot of drama going on. All the relationships when, the highs are really high, the lows are really low. And what happens in these relationships quite often is that, the frequency and the length of highs decreases over time. So we are left with really low lows mostly. And it's all these relationships where when you fight all the time, or where there is like a lot of tension, or where there is like a lot of silent treatment. Yes, there are these roller coasters. Yes, you move up and down. This is not what healthy relationship looks like. Seriously, this is draining, this is exhausting, this is damaging to your emotional well-being, and quite often this is very addictive. And we talked about emotional addiction in the past, so you can scroll down on the page if that's something you struggle with. One of our self-love Sunday chats was about emotional addiction, so you might want to check it. But it's something that we can get used to, and we can stay with it for a very long time, but we always pay a very high price for it. So that's intensity. Another one is isolation. If your partner, friend, a colleague at work, a boss tries to separate you from other people in your life, that is something that is always a very red flag. Yes, and that happens quite often. That people we are in a relationship with try to come in between us and our friends, our family members, try to criticize them, try to um, trigger our doubts about them. So anyway, they try to isolate us from our support network. So that's a very important thing to notice, and there's something there that is not right. Always isolation is always going into a very toxic direction. So that's number two. And then three things I would really like you to pay attention to. And these three things are about how you feel in a relationship, because that's always the best sign that something is not working out for you personally. So the first one is disempowerment. Okay, and it's a biggie, right? uh, Relationships are about making us stronger. Remember, there is this story, about I think it's like a father telling his son that when you have like a little stick, one little stick, it's very easy to break it. But when you have a bunch of sticks, no one can break them if you put them together. Yes, and that's what family is about. That when you're on your own, it's easy to break you, but when you have all these sticks together, it's not easy to break them. That is how healthy relationships work. Uh, they make us stronger. They support us. They give us strength, resilience, inspiration. So if this is if a relationship is just the other way around, there's seriously something wrong there that needs to be taken care of. So all kinds of belittling, diminishing, making you doubt yourself or your judgments are a clear red flag. And a clear signal to you, yes, that you need to do something about it, because it might be other person doing it, but this is always your responsibility to say no, to say to put a boundary, to protect yourself from these kinds of behaviors. They don't serve you, they don't serve the other person, and surely they don't serve the relationship. So that's this empowerment. Another one is exhaustion or depletion. And I'm sure you've noticed this. So just let me know in the comments if you know people with whom, when you spend some time with them, you always feel tired. It always drains your energy. And there might be like different things behind it. But what the result is, yes, that you spend with them some time, and then you need to kind of have rest, or you need to bring yourself back to balance, because they take so much out of your energy. And of course, like there are yeah, I have a yes coming up. There are many different reasons for that. Yes, so sometimes it's this constant negativity, yes, or constant criticism, or sometimes if it's the with people who are very self-centered, very self-focused, that we get this. It can be this empowerment, yes, that we mentioned a moment ago, uh, and sometimes it's also your your part that is, playing a role here. So sometimes we take too much on board. Sometimes we take responsibility for some people, and that is what is draining us. Sometimes we give too much. We give to the point of becoming depleted. So it might be both ways, but in either case, yes, it is very unhealthy, and this is not good for you again, and not good for the relationship. So once you see this pattern, there is also a lot you can do to bring more balance. uh, Relationships are all about balance, yes, are all about giving and receiving. If they become like one-way relationships, they do not work so well. So this exhaustion, this depletion is something that is really worth paying attention to. And then the last one is confusion, and that's one of the biggest things to watch out for, because healthy relationships are all about trust, and trust requires us to be, or requires both parties to be open and honest. So if your partner, if your co-worker, if your friend, if a family member is sending a mixed signals to you. Yes, so they want to be with you, or maybe they don't want to be with you. They trust you, or maybe they don't trust you. They love you, or maybe they don't love you. Yes, they accept you, maybe they don't accept you. And you just don't know where you stand in this relationship. That can be very, very confusing. And confusion is also like a very natural reaction to all kind of manipulation, to all kind of gaslighting, to breadcrumbing, to people not being emotional available. So whenever you notice yourself getting confused in a relationship, it's very, especially if this is like a recurrent pattern, and really take time to stop and ask yourself what's really going on here. uh, because this is a very important emotion to notice. And also, sometimes confusion can also be a sign that we ourselves carry like deep trust issues in ourselves. And again, trust is necessary. Trust is the foundation of a healthy relationship. So if you struggle with trust, there is also a lot that you can do to process this, to heal this, to transform this. And this is kind of necessary if you want to have these deep, close connections uh, with others. And so these 5 things, yes, are so important to pay attention to: intensity, isolation, disempowerment, confusion, and exhaustion or depletion. If you notice any of them, you can be sure that a bit of work is needed to make this relationship like work better. And at the bottom of all this, yes, it's the relationships really impact on all aspects of our life. They are so, so, so important for us to stay emotionally well, to stay physically healthy, even. And we are wired for connection. Yes, without these close, deep, authentic connections with other people, we simply wither, and we die in the end. um, Loneliness can really kill you, and we can be very, very lonely, even if we are surrounded by people. So, what I really want to say is that you can do a lot to make your relationships work much, much better. And it's quite often it's much easier than you expect. So again, please join us for the workshop. The link to sign up is above this video, so that's one good news. And another good news is that we have the date and the venue set for our offline retreat, for our first offline face-to-face and heart-to-heart self-love retreat. It'll be happening from the 14th to 16th of October in County Wexford. I will share like more details with you in the inner circle, because it's going to be like a very small intimate group. We have 12 places plus me and Wendy, who's helping with organizing. So that'll be a small intimate group, and of course the priority goes to the inner circle members, and then if we still have places, we'll open it up. We'll see how it goes. But I'm really so happy, because it's another dream coming true, and I've been thinking about it for such a long time, that I have, all planned. And we are going to do a lot of breathing. We are going to do a lot of reconnecting to ourselves and really building ourselves up and nourishing ourselves. And we will even do a bit of weaving. So that's a little secret. And it's a beautiful place. And we found a wonderful lady who's going to do the cooking for us. So we'll have beautiful vegetarian healthy food, and it's coming, in autumn, when days become shorter and darker. So this is exactly what we need at that time of the year, right? Just something to, wow, truly nourish ourselves and build ourselves up. So I'm delighted about that. So I'm going to share some details with you in the inner circle first, and then if we still have places, we will open this up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, so thank you very much for being with me today. I think we'll talk more about, the skills for healthy relationships, and the qualities of healthy relationships next time. And please remember to sign up for the workshop. So have a beautiful Sunday. Thank you for being with us, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.